guys. Welcome back to the Raw Light podcast. My name is Danielle Baker and thank you for being here today. I am so sorry about last week, guys. It really did slip my mind. I had a week of a whirlwind in Perth. We were flat out busy the whole time, catching up with family. I had clients. I had my beautiful group night session on Friday night, which was absolutely incredible. I honestly had the best time and it was a beautiful introduction to me doing more group work again, and I just had the most scrumptious best time that I have possibly ever had, and I feel really pumped and really excited to get back into things. I am a little bit sick. We came back with a little bit of a sore throat and a little bit of a cough, but I'm here today. I'm showing up. Let's do this. So today we're going to get into talking about boundaries. I have spoken about them before on here, but I have moved through some things and I would really love to talk about boundaries a little bit more on here. So recently I've had to really use my voice and stand in my power, and it's probably why my voice is a little bit sore. My throat chakra has just been unblocked crazily. I really feel lately that I have really popped something open, and I noticed within my cycle, I don't know if anybody else notices this, but I notice this personally, the week before my period, if I have not worked on something expressive, so if there's something that's underlying in my body that hasn't been worked on, it comes up the week before my period. And who does it come out on? My husband. So my husband has gotten really good at putting down boundaries when it comes to myself and the way that I go about things and my hormones, just because for his own safety as well, he would like to know that he is safe and secure in this house as much as anyone else, and we all know what we can get like. So here's what I'm going to talk about first. I'm going to talk about how our cycles affect us when our emotions aren't dealt with. That's what I'm going to talk about first. And then I'm going to go on to boundaries and things within the cycle, and then also within everyday life and why they're so important. I'm going to tell you a story. So what I'm going to go into is, I noticed personally, I kind of had been taking a note of this, and I've told you guys this before. I'm very, very, very switched on at knowing my body, knowing myself, and really knowing where there's a problem coming from. So when I'm working through something energetically, like if my mentor is getting me to work through something energetically, it normally comes up the week before my period, and everything turns to shit. I feel very emotional. My head gets a headache, which normally means for me personally that if you tend to get headaches when you're on your period, it definitely is a hormone balance, but it also can be a block of emotions. If you don't normally cry or you don't like to cry, it's probably a good time to learn how to feel safe within your own body with crying. I spent a lot of years learning how to just be in my body with my emotions because I have huge, huge emotions. So I tend to, if there's something that I'm working on in my life energetically, that week before my period is normally quite turmoil for me. It is very up, it's very down. I'm very much like scattered. Not very much anymore, but when I'm working through something, I definitely notice if I don't deal with that situation or I haven't figured out what that situation is just yet, it's slowly opening to me. I notice that there's a lot of aggression for me, and most women have aggression the week before their period, and there is a reason for that. There is a reason why you don't want to be touched, you don't want to be looked at. It's normally because whatever happened that month, and we do this every single month, whatever happened in that month, you feel stuck, okay? You feel like if there's something, say, with your boss or your husband or somebody that has really disrespected you, and you're like, I feel so much disrespect, but I did not say anything to them, that is when you're going to have an issue in this month, because it'll come up and you'll be angry and furious. You'll take it out on your husband, your children. You will take it out on someone. So it's really important to regulate yourself around this month and have your own boundaries with your husband and your children, to just sit with yourself and then regulate yourself as best as possible, and know that it's going to pass when you get your period. So it's just like a build up. We need to have like massive build up before we're bleeding. A lot of women feel this, and that is why there is a lot of aggression that comes with it as well, because whatever we haven't dealt with within that month, it comes up. The reason why I want to talk about this is because I'm on my week before my period, and this week I feel very clear, and normally I don't feel very clear. I normally feel a little bit heavy, a little bit annoyed, irritated, extra irritated, which still happens, right? It's not going to just disappear completely, but it still happens, but not to the point where I want to blow and explode on everybody. And I really have found over the years that when this has happened, it's not a very fun household for everybody. So I try and eat as healthy as I can around this week before my period. I up my magnesium, I get a lot of rest, and I take care of myself as best as I can. I also have, if you're new to my podcast or you know this, I have a 16-month-old now. She's 16-month-old, so I can't always check out, and I don't. But in the moments this week, I might go read my book at nighttime instead of sitting there. I like to sit with my husband. He normally watches TV, and I will sit with him, and then I will do either work or read. And then we will chat backwards and forwards, because I still like to have that connection with him, because he works really long hours during the day at the moment. So you just take that extra time for yourself and know that you will get that time as best as possible. And if you don't, make sure that you don't put yourself in a position of, right, I haven't gotten this time, so I'm really angry. See if you can figure out a way to create that time as a boundary. So how can you create that time for yourself as a boundary to be able to come forth and ask for your husband or a friend or your mum, or, while they're at daycare, lay in the bath, I don't know, things like that. Just doing those types of things is really important. I'm also laughing because I'm currently, my 15-month-old is sitting next to me while I'm doing this, and she's like trying to pull on all my cords. It was the only time I could fit in to do this, and I was like, I'm not letting these guys down again today. That's not going to happen. I'm here and I'm 100% showing up. So and when she sleeps, I've got to get a few personal things done around the house. So if you're wondering, why don't I just do it when she sleeps? I've got a few personal things that I need to do around the house today. So I needed to get this in the morning, or it was just not going to get done. So going on that, how can you create the boundaries in everyday life for yourself and start to really, if you're a person who your period really affects you, how can you really start to put boundaries down so that it protects yourself? I have for many years allowed my work, other people, friends to dictate my cycle and ignore my body. If I was on my period, I would still go out and do things. As in, like, you don't need to, if you feel like you have a little bit of energy, then great, go do something around the house, but don't go out party and drink. That's actually the worst thing you can do for your period. And that's actually why a lot of women have every month swing quite high and quite low. And I recognize this in myself as well, is I swung quite high and quite low because I would push my body over that period cycle when my body just wanted to cocoon and rest. So I know that in everyday work and jobs, it's really hard to get time off, obviously. But it's crazy to think that over in Sweden, where I used to live, they actually gave you that week off when you had your period. They allowed you to have the week off. They allowed you to be at home. It is actually quite common for them to help their partners out a lot over there. So I was a bit gobsmacked when I eventually moved back and things were back to normal again. But even if you are working, can you work out with your boss? Can you work out with your boss where every month you might work in your summer phase, so when you're ovulating, you might work an extra 6 to 7 hours over that week, or you might work an extra 5 hours, and I know you're probably thinking, oh my God, I don't want to do that. But then when you have your period, you ask them if it's okay to drop back the hours in that day. So you might work 9 till 3, or, but you're still getting the same amount of work done. Have you ever thought about the fact of putting boundaries down and asking your boss, hey, can I actually, and a lot of women are afraid to do this. And what I read in a book recently, which is hilarious to say because you're like, what? You read this in a fucking book? How does that even matter? Because it actually does. So she talks about how a woman in the book, she talks about a woman and how it's a Queen's Code book. And she talks about how she went to her boss and she said it would probably provide a lot for myself and my team if I could have this and this amount of time off every month, but we worked an extra couple of hours each month to make it up. And he ended up saying yes, because if you're going in there and you're negotiating and they're still getting the same amount of work out of you, why would it matter that you're taking off that time? There's no reason for it if you're working just as hard. And a lot of people judged her for it in the book because they didn't have the guts to get up and ask for what they were wanting and what they're needing. So this is a good sign in life in general. And I do this with my husband. I get him to help out extra on this time because I just can't, or I make food as well and put it in the freezer and I say to my husband, can you get it out and make it? And he's good at cooking anyway. So do what you feel works best for you. You get to negotiate in every part of your life, including your family's life. So why wouldn't you negotiate with your husband? This is the thing I don't understand, and I see on social media a lot. Everybody's willing to attack their husbands for going golfing and doing those things. And I get it. They spend day in and day out and they're away from home. But what if you negotiated him with family time and golfing and being at home and hanging out with you and then still getting his golf in? Wouldn't that be a much easier way and a much easier life than battling each other constantly and thinking that he's a terrible husband and you're a terrible wife or those things? I see that a lot on social media and it's something that I don't like. My husband and I negotiate a lot. We have boundaries and we also need our own time and our space. And he knows when I'm pushed to my limit that he hasn't either been listening, and like we've had many conversations about this in the last 4 years, he's either hasn't listened or I haven't expressed myself enough and then I blow up. So he knows when I'm like that, then there is a reason to listen and hear. So there is ways of negotiating. You negotiate every single day. I negotiate with my toddler every single day and I negotiate with my husband every single day. You have to have boundaries in life for your own safety, but you have to be able to learn to use your voice as well to be able to create whatever you're wanting in your life. Stop thinking that there's a glass limit on your life. There's not. You get to create and have the life you wish and desire. You just need to know tips and tricks, learn tips and tricks to be able to express that. This is a really, really cool thing to remember. You can have anything in your life. And I mean that. You can have absolutely anything in your life. You just have to know how to get it. And a lot of people don't know how to get it, okay? And it's really important to know that you can have this in your life. You can have a non-glass ceiling life. You just have to stretch yourself a little bit to maybe see or feel that, wow, I could have this. Maybe my communication needs to work. Maybe I need to do a little bit more around explaining myself to my family. And those types of things. So it's really, really important to remember that. So moving on to boundaries and life and why, in general, boundaries are so important. Boundaries keep you safe every single day. Just think about the boundaries that you have yourself when you're crossing a road. You won't run across the road and touch and go when you kind of see a car's coming too close, would you? And if you do, well, you're a little bit of a daredevil then, aren't you? Because most people would check their boundaries, feel their boundaries. The same when going out to a nightclub or going out with your girlfriends, you probably have boundaries with yourself if you're married. Or, that's just a natural thing. It's just the way that I can explain things is for you to understand. It's a natural process to have those boundaries. So for me, I would say that recently I have really had to use my voice and it's actually quite sore today. So I'm not going to do too much of an overly long podcast today, but for me, I can say that I've had to really learn my own personal boundaries. Like, how does this make me feel? What do I stand for in my life? What are my boundaries? What are my husband's boundaries? What is our boundaries as a family? What boundaries feel good for our family? And if they're pushed, we say something and say, hey, this is just what we're going to do. This is our boundary. Please don't cross it. And it might take somebody 3 or 4 times to get, or they might just not want to get it at all, and that's fine, but you will spend less time with them because they don't respect your boundaries. People tend to push your boundaries to see if you actually stick to them. And if you actually stick to them, then they'll know that you're serious. But if you flake on your boundaries and you flake on what you and your husband want, then of course they're going to push you and push everything. And it's the same thing, I will say this, it's the same thing with your family, right? Each family you have boundaries with. I have boundaries with both families equal. Now one family or the other family might think otherwise, but I have equal boundaries with both. And I am not afraid to have equal boundaries with both because I think it's very important to have both. And my husband stands with me on that. It's taken us a very long time to figure out what they are and why they're so important. And as we have a family, we are now understanding why the boundaries are so important. Because if I can't give you 100% of me and you're begging for that, I'm not going to budge on my boundary because I am not feeling 100% and I can't give you 100% of me. So why push for that? Why are they pushing for that? Because themselves, they don't respect their own personal boundaries and they give themselves too much to others. So you're triggering a part of them where they're like, well, am I not good enough? Or why would you say that to me? You know, those types of things it's very important to know why you're standing for your boundaries. And you don't have to always explain. It just can be, no, this is what's best for our family, blah, blah, blah. People will push it. They'll want to know why. They'll want to know, you know, and you can explain it if you want to. But at the end of the day, a no means no for a reason. And I tend to give people an example of why. You know, I'm feeling tired. It's not good for our family. I'm protecting my daughter. She needs sleep. She needs rest. No, we can't do that today. Let's do another day. The people that will get it will get it. The people that don't won't. And that's okay. But think about your life and your boundaries. Where are you leaking energy? And also, to me, I value my energy so much, and my husband values his time and his space so much that we both just can't afford to have leaky stuff going everywhere. And for us, we find it very, very hard on certain times when we have to do big family things to keep everyone happy. So now me and him have very strict boundaries. We've recently come down to very challenging boundaries for us. We've got very, very, strict boundaries on things because we want safety for our family and safety for us. We end up coming back and feeling so exhausted. And I mean, you do that anyway when you're catching up with everybody. But for us, we don't have a space or a home normally to go back to and just flop down and do nothing and look at a wall for a couple of hours. So when we get the time and space, we try and work with each other on what are our boundaries as a family. What's our boundaries for Oakley while she can't tell us her boundaries? Help her learn boundaries, teach her boundaries. It's really important for your family. And if you keep letting people dictate your life for you because you don't have boundaries, you can't blame them. You've got to blame yourself. You got to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet. You got to learn how to say, right, these are our boundaries, and give people time to understand that you do have big, strong boundaries and you're not going to get pushed around. And you don't have to be nasty or mean about it, but you can say very strongly, firmly, and lovingly, hi, I'm just going to have to say that you've crossed a boundary of mine, and when you didn't listen, it made me feel this, this, and this. And then they understand that you're really serious about your boundaries, okay? Really understand that, and it does feel icky when someone crosses your boundaries. It does. Many, many years ago, I didn't have very good boundaries. I really didn't. And I lived with my brother and my sister-in-law. And I remember my older brother saying to me, you got to learn when not to be selfish in life, because they had boundaries as a family and I'd crossed a boundary. And I was like, well, what? I didn't even do anything wrong. And this was about 7 years ago, that I was still in this stage of figuring out that why boundaries are so important. And then getting my own family, getting married, having my husband, my beautiful daughter, I've figured out why boundaries are so important in life. They are your protection and your safety. And if people cross them, let them know, so that they can learn. You're teaching them as well. You're teaching them that boundaries are safe and good. You can love them more with boundaries and not with them loving on top of you and smothering you, or your work boss, say, beating down on you. You tell them and you show them your boundaries. Hey, yep, I get what you're saying, but please say that to me in a nicer way next time. That's your boundary. It's the same with your children. Hey, I'd say to my daughter, hey, babe, And you'll be like, oh, she doesn't understand. She actually does. 16 months olds are very, very, very switched on. I say to her, hey, please don't bite mummy. That hurts. That's not okay. I will remove you from this room or this area if you're going to keep biting mummy. And she did it a few more times. So I just moved her away. She got really upset. I let her have her expression. I went over and cuddled her and kissed her. And I said, it's okay. I love you very much. But you need to understand mummy's boundary. And that's teaching her boundaries. So then in a year or two, she'll know exactly what boundaries are. So whatever it is in your life, take a look at it. Take and see if there's anything that's going on in your life that you really feel needs to be looked at for your own boundaries, for your family's boundaries, for your husband, for your child, and really look at it. And if your husband or your partner has come to you and said, hey, this has been my boundary and you've allowed that cross, do you allow your family to cross this for me? And you go, oh no, it's just my family. You need to take a good look at yourself. And that sounds harsh, but I'm going to be very serious. It ruins marriages. Okay, you really need to take a look and say, okay, how can I still implement this in my life? Is it an actual issue? Is it an actual issue? And if it is for my husband, why is it? Talk to him about it. And then he wants to know that you've got his back and he'll have your back. That is so important. So remember, these boundaries keep families together. They keep you safe. It's why it's important to get clear. And if you're listening to this and you're dating, get clear on those boundaries. So when you meet somebody and they have similar thinking or boundaries to you, you will know that you'll go in a trajectory together. So just have a little think and have a little look, because my husband and I have had to work through so many boundaries within our relationship to get to where we are right now, in where we're sitting, which we feel very strong together as a couple. And that's what you want. You want to be a team, a unified unit. And it's the same at work. If you're a team leader or you're somebody who would like to be a team leader, you need to be in that position of acting like that, with boundaries and still being able to be heard and loud and have other people be heard and seen. So I'm going to leave it there. I was pretty powerful, pretty packy and punchy today with my energy with this, because I'm really, really passionate about this and making sure that everybody feels heard and seen. Also, I'm just going to leave this with the fact I have openings in the evenings and on weekends with clients. And I'm actually loving my nighttime clients because we jump on for an hour. We talk for 15 minutes. We do a beautiful healing for 45. Then you guys hop off. And then the next day I get you guys to message me and connect with me, because a lot of people can't think in that moment what they would like. So it's just really important for them to have the space and the knowledge to be like, I'm going to talk about this tomorrow, or we can write stuff down. And then we go through a few things, and then you either go on your way or you're wanting to work with me more. It's a really beautiful and powerful energy that I'm popping at the moment. I've had a lot of women talk to me about I'm working with their inner child and healing a lot of those wounds, and it's actually been helping within their marriage and their life. So if that interests you, you can go onto my Instagram. There's a link there in the booking link. It goes straight to wherever you need to go. And what I mean by that is it goes straight to the 4 offerings that I offer, and then you can click on one and then you can book in with me. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope you have a beautiful week, and I will speak to you next week. See ya.